Hello and welcome to the More Cheese, Less Whiskers.com podcast. My name is Dean Jackson, and today I'm talking with Todd Herman. And Todd is the creator of the 90-day year. And if you have been paying attention over the last couple of years, you'll see that that idea has been getting lots and lots of traction. And so he's got a very mature business. He's got a really great model, a launch-based model. And we talk about how to really capitalize on the biggest asset that he has, which turns out to be this asset of all the list of people who in Profit Activator 3 have responded on some level, have raised their hand that they're interested in the idea of a 90-day year and the opportunities to really expand the way that you can help those people and think about it as an asset. So we focused a lot of our time on really going deep in that concept. And I think you're going to really enjoy this episode. So here we go.
Todd Herman.
Mr. Dean Jackson, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
Not too shabby. Where are you today? Are you in Florida or back in Canada?
I'm in Florida for a few more weeks, and then I head up to Toronto via New York, and then London and Amsterdam, and then back to Toronto for most of the summer.
Do you run the same cycle pretty much every year where you're down in Florida and then you come up for the summertime in Canada?
Mostly, yeah. I started this is my fifth year of, I kind of do a summer bookend, get out of, I do my breakthrough blueprint events in Toronto and London and Amsterdam, and then come back to Toronto for a while and then go to Australia for the end of the summer. And then by the time I'm back, it's September. There we go.
And you got to miss the extraordinary heat of Florida for the summer.
That is exactly right. But I'm excited to chat with you today. I've been looking forward to this. I've been watching what you do and seeing everything unfold with the 90-day year. And I think a lot of people are going to be very excited to hear about that and to hatch some see what kind of evil schemes we can hatch for you today. So we're already recording, and we've got the whole hour to go. So why don't we start and have you kind of set the backstory and the stage here, and then you tell me what kind of what we can focus on today for you.
Sure. So backstory. Basically, the business I've got a few different businesses, but the business that's probably most relevant for you and I to talk about is definitely the 90-day-year program and the training that I've got online. And the kind of the backstory on it is, I've had a peak performance and sports science business for about 20 years, working with pro and Olympic athletes all on the mental game. And I've got a bunch of different training that over the years has gotten licensed into different sports organizations around the world, like over in Germany and Japan and lots of different places.
Oh, that's awesome.
So licensing has actually in the past been one of my favorite kind of models for, creating leverage in a business and stuff. But from that process, anytime you're working with the top sports people on the planet, you meet a lot of other type A business professionals or entrepreneurs, and they'll always say, well, I've got to perform at a high level, or they'll see you speak, and they'll, this, that anytime someone's listening to your message, they're always filtering it through their own kind of experience. So I'd get a lot of different corporate people or entrepreneurs who would come up to me after I do a speech to athletes and be like, well, all that stuff was really good, but, do you do anything for, me and my business, and here's what I'm dealing with. And so I launched another company that did training for corporations and business owners. My point was that I had this 90-day sprint model that's what we used with athletes to help them basically scale up their skills and confidence really, really quickly. And it was all about basically, you're familiar with the book, The One Thing?
I am, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so I could have written that book too, because it's the same principle in anything in high performance. You're typically trying to find what's that one big leverage point that we can do that's going to get you maximum results across all of the different areas. And it's kind of what you're doing with the 8 profit activators, right? They're like, okay, well, which one's the weakest, and which one, if we change, it's going to get an order of magnitude difference in, the other parts of your business.
Yeah.
So, when I got into the corporate space, actually, I was working with this big oil company, Chevron, and one of the big executives there, he was like, I know you're talking about 90-day sprints, but he's like, we really don't do sprints. This is like long before Jeff Sutherland's Scrum methodology had kind of leaked itself out into the regular business space. But he's like, we do operate on like a calendar. That's kind of what we always operate on. So why don't you call it the 90-day year? And so he's actually the one who came up with the idea for me.
Oh, what a
and this
great,
was back
yeah.
Yeah, so that's what it came out about 2003. But anyways, so I've had it in the corporate world and kind of behind the scenes for a long time working with. I love coaching people. I love working with people one-on-one. I think kind of you're the same way too. Like just that intimacy absolutely. That you can get and the impact is great. But I started working over the last few years with a bunch of people, probably about 6 years, been behind the scenes helping a lot of the players that are in the e-commerce or the online training space, helping them. I was basically performance coaching them too. And a few of them were like, geez, like the way that you talk about performance, no one really kind of teaches it the way that you do. I've never heard it, talked about this way before. You should really do you should bring it into an online training program. And I really didn't have a desire to, but after some poking and prodding 2 years ago, we did, and it's been really, really successful. And it's been a fun learning experience, but I've never been involved. I know you've been basically involved in businesses that are very much a direct marketing model in the past.
Right.
And it's a different skill set, right? Like it's not, I've built up all of my businesses on the back of essentially really deep relationship building stuff, or they've been very boutique, and the only way you can get in, even still like in my pro sports business and Olympic business, the only way you can become a client is if you're referred into me. So as far as this business goes, really the probably the biggest area that I need kind of the most help with is the consistent nurturing of people, because I do these large campaigns twice a year, but then there can kind of be sometimes crickets in between. And, that's not how you build a relationship with people virtually, definitely. So that's kind of a breakage in the business, definitely. And when you're doing things with joint venture partners, they're the ones who own the relationship. And so you need to put in a lot more work to kind of earn that relationship too over time, because people obviously don't convert right away. They convert over time. So,
So how often so you're using a launch model right now, and how do you do, how often are you open?
We do a June enrollment for the 90-day year, and then we do a December enrollment. And each of those enrollments is basically like a 3-month program with me where we're working through and helping people really implement the 90-day year in their businesses or in their professional lives. So yeah.
And have you thought about, you must have thought about opening more, like it just seems like it begs itself to be quarterly at least, right? It's kind of a it's kind of a that kind of fits. And then of course the next common thing would be monthly, because then you can start your 90 days any time, right? But it just makes sense that there's a rhythm to you're doing it half a year, but it seems like there would be a rhythm to at least quarterly. Is it 100% launch based, where you get big support and do the big push twice a year, and then are you doing any? So your before unit, if we talk about it in this context here, right? Your before unit is all in your Profit Activator 2 is getting support from JV partners to push people into your Profit Activator 3, where you educate and motivate them over a series of videos. and then you make your offer, and they come into the during unit. So it's all compressed into that window when you're actually doing the launch period, right?
That's it. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how many weeks is that cycle, like from email one to closing the cart?
It runs, so, oddly enough, yesterday was the first day of, the kind of pre-launch content that started. So that's June 1st, and that runs, and the cart will, or the enrollment will close on June the 16th. So it's just over 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so that, and then it's basically nothing again till the end of the year when you do it again, and everybody will get enrolled and geared up for starting there in December. You'll do the same thing. Okay.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So you've got, I think that one of the greatest assets that you have, probably right away, is the list. Like you're getting all of the partners who mail when their people opt in. There's probably a good percentage of them that don't enroll right now for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got that asset of this Profit Activator 3 list here, that pool of unconverted prospects who know who you are, but have not yet bought anything from you. So what happens with that list? What happens with that group of people after the cart closes? What's your sort of long-term ongoing strategy with those people?
Yeah, so that's probably the most important thing to talk about with me is, so, I mean, even after that, the kind of enrollment closes, then a few days later, I open up a new enrollment, and that's for basically what I call the playbook version of the 90-day year, which is essentially just the program itself, because, I know that some people don't want to pay the extra, investment to get support and things like that. Maybe they just want the actual system itself. Sure. So we do it's basically a downsell type thing. And that's, we do that for 2 days. So that's, and, every time we do it, we'll get probably out of the total buyers that come in, we typically get about 1,000 people come into the main program. And then we'll get about 250 people that will do the downsell. And the last couple of times, because just like anything, like you start to develop better and better systems for, putting programs in front of people. And then the next thing that we offer people is what I call base camp. And it's a 1 day of strategic planning with me here in New York City, where you fly in every 90 days and we kind of work through, what worked, what didn't work, what do you need to focus on over the next 90 days, and kind of, I call it, unpack, repack, go, like fill up your backpack with your next strategies and you go on your way. And that's to serve that group of people who aren't really interested in buying a program online, but they really want one-on-one access to you. Like people are at higher stages of business, right? And so, but that program is now completely full. I don't have any room for any more people in that, but we typically have a bit of a campaign that works with those people. And then the other thing that we do with, I do a couple of like joint venture promotions in between. I really don't, hit the, quote unquote, hit the list with lots of offers or anything, but, other than that, that's kind of been it. Well, what 2017 was supposed to be about, it got sidelined a little bit because of just some, business things that happened, but was really about putting a really solid content and nurturing engine inside of the business to just, to get out there. Because to your point before, pretty much the only two traffic sources I've ever focused on with this particular online business has been the joint venture people, and then also paid traffic. And the one thing that we do have working for us really well is we have a huge alumni referability rate. Like we have a lot of alumni after they go through the program who then sign up to be partners. And I'm not talking people with big lists or anything like that. Sometimes, I mean, there's a lady out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She runs a pizza shop out there, and she had such great success with systemizing her business. They've had their pizza shop for about 13 years. They'd never taken a day off in 13 years. And after they implemented the program, they were able to take Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. And so all the people at her Chamber of Commerce that she's a member of were like, what are you doing differently? Like, we've always, you've always kind of complained about how hard you're working. She's like, well, I just did this online thing called the Night of the Year. And so she said this in the group. And I was like, I mean, hey, like, I want to pay you for that. Like, it's great that you're saying that, but, you could be getting a commission for just sharing this with people. And so it's amazing to send a pizza shop owner $20,000 because she's put 24 people into the program. Wow, so, awesome. So anyways, those are the two things where we focus, and where I haven't focused enough time on is that kind of content nurturing engine.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned paid. How much of the mix is your paid a contribution versus the JVs? Like, of the 1,000 people that come in, how many of those would you generate, and how many would come from JVs?
The paid traffic side, it sits at around 17%.
Okay, so 170 of those basically would have come from you, and then the others would have come from affiliates. And do you track the cost comparison of the paid versus the JV?
How do you mean by that?
How much? Well, so what's the price of the program?
So it's $2,000, or we do a 12 pay opportunity for people too, and that's $200 a month.
200. Right. Okay. So, do most people pay the 2,000 or the 2,400?
Well,
most people don't make it all the way through on the 2,400, probably.
Yeah, they don't. And I know some people really struggle with that number. We actually don't. Like, we actually have a very good number. Our average is we get people to the 10-month mark, which is awesome. But so in the past we had a way too high conversion on the 12 pay. And then this last time we sort of just tweaked the offer slightly. So in the past it was about 19% would take the full pay. And then we tweaked it, and then we got it up to 43% on the last campaign that we did.
Oh, gotcha. Perfect. So of these, then of the 2,000, how much do you pay to affiliates? You pay 1,000 to
50%.
affiliates?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So $1,000 is what it costs you to get a new client with your launch model. Mm-hmm. And then what does it cost you on the paid model?
Okay, so if we use the 17%, so we have 170 people, we on average will spend about $120,000 in paid traffic. Now, a lot of that is retargeting, so that gets attributed to all of the people. So it's kind of hard. That's been my biggest, pain point has been I really don't have solid metrics on tracking all that stuff through. And this time for this campaign that we're going through right now, I brought in this phenomenal Google Tag Manager and just analytics guy, and he's working with us on truly getting good data, because to your point, it's hard to make decisions on what you should be focusing on when you don't have good data. And it's funny because I'm a performance guy. That's the only thing I typically care about is, what are the numbers? So, so then how would you work that number back? If there's 170 people who come in and we're spending, say, $120,000 on paid advertising, and of that,
let's take a thing. So here's how I would look at it, because this is the traditional thing, right? This is the classic example of launch-based and kind of expense-based marketing versus capital investment, okay? And so the way that this whole launch model looks at is that, and the way that all of your launch partners and the way that you're conditioned to think about it is that you're going to be able to, historically now you've done enough. So when you're promoting to get support from launch partners, you're sharing earnings per click. What's happening, right? Like what they're most interested in is what's your EPC. That's the thing, right? Like they want to know, well, how have you done? How am I going to do? Because all they're interested in is how much am I going to make now for promoting your thing today, right? And they look at it that they look at it as currency in a way, right? They're going to send this traffic to you because if they mail for you today, they can't mail somebody else. So that's why the coordination of launch calendars and having a launch manager and coordinating that whole thing depends on lining everybody up so that you get the support at the time when you need it and all the buzz is around it. And it's this window that this 2-week period is we sent this much traffic and we made this much money. That's the way they look at it. And then the sort of longer term thing being now capturing the 250 for the light version of the program sort of after. And how much is that, by the way? What the 250?
That's $500.
So $500. So you look at that. So you focus all of the attention on getting the $2,000 product, and then getting 250 more of them to buy a $500 product, and then it goes away, right? So the whole focus is on this short window of time. Now, when you look at it, your list, your asset that you have is this list of people who have opted in because they're this topic, right? You got their attention on some level. And how many people do you have on that list, would you say?
On that list is close to 90,000.
Okay. So there's the thing is you've got an asset of 90,000 people. And within that now, do you attribute when you launch, how many times have you done this launch?
This is now the 5th time.
Okay. So a couple of years you've been doing it now, right? And this is the 3rd year. So next year or in December, that'll be the 6th. Do you have a tracking where you look at how many of the people who bought were already on the list, like that opted in last time and then buy this time?
The answer is yes, we could do that. Is there any tracking that's done on that right now? No.
No. Okay. And so how do you attribute the sales then? Like that 90,000, I'm assuming that last time that when you started your last launch, that number was smaller than 90,000, right? So maybe that was 80,000 or whatever,
so
right?
Each time we run a campaign, everyone goes into, no matter if it's the people that are on our list or people that are opting in new, they go into a new campaign. And so we're able to kind of just track each time that, okay, well, this campaign now we have, 40,000 people on top of, how many more people get added to the total list. It might be an additional 20,000 people because, the old list people or the existing list, they opt in. And we've kind of found actually on the pay-per-click, and this is a very rough number. We haven't dove too deep into it. It's a pretty cursory look, but we found that the average person who comes in through cold traffic needs to see the launch 2.4 times before they purchase.
Well, that could be true, right? So that means over a year that they've seen or 18 months, right? So you look at that that fits in exactly with one of my sort of foundational beliefs about leads. And so I look at it differently. I look at this as an asset. I look at, if we take 100 leads today, that I look at it that I'm not measuring the full mature value of those until 2 years, right? So I'm looking at it as a capital investment as opposed to an expense. And so the expense model is short term, saying I sent this much traffic or I bought this much. I spent $120,000 on the traffic, and this amount of people bought, and you calculate your ROI in the short term, right, on that buy. But one of the things that I look at is this idea that most people are not ready to buy right now, right? And so it takes, just like you've shown with your paid traffic, that 2.4 launches later, which is 18 months later, is the amount of time that it takes for people to buy. And so I often talk about this this study that I found through a company that does inquiry management, like on a big corporate enterprise level. And they manage, millions of leads a year. And what they found across all industries was that just over half of the people that inquire about anything will buy what it is they've inquired about within 18 months. And
really?
Yes, but only 15% of them will do it in the next 90 days. And so 85% of the value of a bundle of leads that you generate today, if you generate 100, and I always talk about them in terms of cohorts like that, right? So in terms of a bundle as opposed to an individual lead. So I look at that 100 leads today, and if we just take and look at it, I draw this illustration of quadrants, 4 quadrants. And on the vertical axis, the top 2 boxes and the bottom 2 boxes, I'm distinguishing for the outcomes of these 100 leads, right? So the only 2 options are that they are going to buy in the next 18 months. So we'll say yes, or they're not going to buy, right? So I put those on the bottom. That's the yes and the no that divide the top and bottom boxes. Then on the right and the left, the only 2 things are they're going to buy now on the left side, or they're going to buy later on the right side. And so I look at those quadrants, and we can, if we take those 100 people and we put them, we overlay that quadrant on them, that we can X out the bottom 2 boxes, because if they're not going to buy, it doesn't matter whether it's now or later. That's out of play, right? So we've eliminated, and I was, to be conservative on these, I use half as the example, 50%, and I extend it out to 2 years instead of 18 months. So I'm extra conservative on both sides of this. And so if I look at that, then that means in that upper left quadrant, we're left with the people who are going to buy and are going to buy now equals 15% of the people. And in that other quadrant, the upper right quadrant, where we have 85% of the people who that's where the majority of is, right? If the people who are going to buy later, that's where all of the action is, That's really where the value is. It's so funny because, when you look at it, the way that this company got all this data was they would do what they call "Did you buy?" surveys, where they would call a sampling. I mean, they handle millions of inquiries a year from corporations. Like if you work at, Kohler, the big faucet company, and people go to a home show and fill out information or go to their website and request a catalog. They'll manage the fulfillment of those things for big corporations, right? And then they would do what they call "Did you buy?" surveys, where they'll take a sampling and they'll call at 90-day increments, and they'll just ask one question. They'll say, "Todd, you came to the home show, you asked about faucets. Have you bought any faucets?" Not whether you bought Kohler faucets or bought anything else. It's, did you buy any faucets? And that's where they find that, if they follow up out that 18 months, that just over half of the people will have bought some faucets, whether they bought Kohler faucets or not. So part of the value is in determining, just having an approach to yield that 85%. Because right now, everything, you're putting all of your eggs in that quadrant 1 basket of now, right? Because everything is geared towards this 2-week period where everything comes in, and that's what you're getting. But if you just take those people, those 90,000 people, and you look at the thing, if you've had, let's say, 5,000 of them who have bought, maybe, right, 5 or somewhere around there.
That's right. Yeah.
That you've got 85,000 people who were interested enough to opt in, but have not yet bought the program or taken part in the course. So that doesn't mean that they're not interested in that. That they're still. The great thing about a 90-day year is that there is another one coming right behind it, right? Every month you have the opportunity to start a new 90 days. And it's kind of a fascinating thing that we're completely fascinated by time and by our ability to get things done. That's a really evergreen topic. It's not going away, And if they don't buy now, that doesn't mean that they don't buy into it. It maybe means that they're trying something else, or they've got, that people are constantly looking to improve the ways that they do things,
Yeah.
So I look at this, whereas what I would be looking for the opportunity of is, how can you, just for this group of people, just for the 90,000, maybe opening it up 2 more times a year, at least to start, without having to get all the support, without having to get all that stuff, and maybe just even using 9-word email approaches, of just getting, just sending short messages to people to see who is interested,
Yeah. And so at scale, like when you have a large list like that, do you still do the open-ended reply back, or how would that mechanism work well at scale?
So, 2 things that you can do. First of all, you could do a intelligent link that gets the same. You can use the same tone, and instead of saying like what I would normally say to somebody, and you could test this in small batches too, by the way. I mean, you could pull out 10,000 and send that, which would be manageable. If you sent, and you could test the, versus another, but basically saying in a short personal way, we're starting a new class of the 90-day year, starting in September or whatever, right? Whatever you want to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that we are, would you like to join us? Just something short like that, right? Because they know what it is. They know who you are, kind of thing. You know, it's not like
Yeah.
the person for this is not going to be the one. You're not starting from scratch. You're going to the person who already has an awareness of what this is. Like, that's why when I do my Breakthrough Blueprint events, I know that the person who's going to come and spend 3 days with me and spend $5,000 to do that is not somebody who this is the first time they're hearing from me.
Mm-hmm.
The person who's coming to that event already knows that that would be a good idea. They've already had this. They already have a context for who I am and what we would focus on, and that would be a good idea. So I'm only speaking to the 5-star prospects, right? I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. And I think that that's where you maybe have that opportunity, is that for whatever reason, there was somebody who, the dates didn't work out, or they weren't quite ready, or they wished they had, but they missed it, or they, for whatever reason. I think if you had that kind of follow along, and it could be so simple to execute something like that. So that I would do it like that, where they respond. But if you want to manage it, you could say the same thing and say, would you like to join us? Click here and I'll send you all the details, right? That you could say, click here and I'll get you all the details, versus just the open-ended question where people then respond back to it. And that way you eliminate one of the steps, and you tag that they were interested in that. And then you send the email of, here's what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Makes
I
sense.
think that little simple thing, that's literally just a, simple campaign. It could be the same thing that you start 2 weeks ahead of starting in a group in September or October.
Yeah. And I mean, I've wanted to move it to like a more evergreen thing. I guess it's probably stuff in my own head, I think, just like most things in life. But I've been like, I can see how other people turn things evergreen because they're selling a more, for lack of a better term, shiny object, right? Like, I mean, basically what I'm selling people, like, an achievement system or an operation system for achieving in their business. And, to break it down in its most simple form, it's essentially like, goal achievement. And so I'm like, I think in that, like, it's like the oldest thing that's ever sold. Not that I'm lumping that idea into it, because it is, quite different, but I've always been like, I think this really needs, a launch-ish type thing. But as you know, anytime you're putting together these big campaigns, it takes a lot of resources and sucks up a lot of your business and your team's resources. So I definitely do. Yeah, I think you've made the good case, and I mean, sort of already confirming what's in my head anyway about moving this into a more. Because you're right, it totally does lend itself into, because I mean, even inside the program itself, people say like, hey, I kind of fell off the wagon in my business. Can I start another night? And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, you're not going to break anything in the cycle of life if you start your 90-day year on a 13th of the month, or if you start it on the first of the month. It doesn't matter. It's your business, exactly, your life.
Right. Yeah. And so, I definitely think like this. I mean, you're in the middle of your launch right now. And I definitely think that, when you look at like just the natural start of things, like I think there's definitely a seasonal kind of element to it. But like September, October is definitely like a back to school. I kind of run my world on an academic calendar in a way. Like I look at September.
I'm with you 100%. Yeah.
Okay. And so it just
I
seems
agree.
like, it just seems like that is really the perfect timing to do something like that, and do it in a way that is really just speaking to the people, the 90,000. But now here's what I'm more curious about the 90,000, right? This list is what else? What do they hear from you over the course of the year here? Do you have a flagship communication that you send? Do you send a weekly email to these to this group, or what's the
No, and that's been like that's what I was saying before about just the nurturing with people is that's definitely the piece that's the weakest is that ongoing nurturing. So for a while I had my podcast that was running and it was working great, and that came out weekly, and then just stuff started to get more complicated with some business stuff, and I had to pull back on just executing on it. But that was one mechanism of keeping people warmed up to not just me, but just having content for people as well. So and that's, so to answer your question, there really isn't that much.
Mm-hmm. And so what happened with how many episodes did you do?
We're up to almost 30.
Okay. So you got some great, what was the format of it?
Yeah, it was interview style, but I may have had it was interview style, similar to this, I guess. And the podcast is Grit and Hustle podcast, and people we have 60,000 or something like that, listeners, other subscribers to it. And but I had on people like Robert Greene, who wrote the book Mastery and Seduction, and famous author, and Brian Smith, the founder of Ugg Boots, and tons of really good people. So anyways, we do have a lot of good content.
Mm-hmm. I think that part of the thing that might fit for you here is maybe a model similar to More Cheese, Less Whiskers, in that you're talking with real people who are implementing real things, so documenting their successes with it. There's nothing as powerful. I made up a word for them called contentimonials, where you're you're packaging up a podcast as content with success story, a testimonial of people who are implementing it, but also you could do it as coaching or helping like that, where people are fascinated. Like if you've got a framework, like what works for More Cheese, Less Whiskers is that where everybody's familiar with the framework of the 8 profit activators. And so that's the overlying thing, right? We're overlaying that model over top of all of these different situations. So just like our conversation right now is focused on your big asset, which is your Profit Activator 3 list after the launch. There's no bigger asset that you have right now, and that those people definitely have needs and want to do something, And the great thing
it's
about
so funny. It's so funny you say that, because after I was going through just the process of getting ready for this for our chat today, I was like, this would actually be a really good model for the 90-day year. And because one thing I talk about all the time is I always set aside 2 hours on every Friday, and I just pick up the phone, and I just start dialing my customer list. And I just randomly, call people and, start chatting with them about how things are going. And, in this space, as like when someone talks to, even though I can't stand the term and I resist it at all costs, is, like when the guru person or expert calls them, they're floored. But I'm just interested in talking to people and what are your challenges right now? Like, what's your problem right now? Like, all that stuff is so valuable with the way that you
Right.
can develop a program that truly fits the needs of people, not what you think is going to work for people.
Right. And letting people,
Yeah.
listen, like letting other people listen in on that is even
Yeah.
where it becomes more valuable. Now it's amplified, and it becomes the cornerstone of all of your content. So right now, everything is very, I think this is really a good model that could work for you. If you look at the overriding things, so even if you look at More Cheese, Less Whiskers as an example, as a model of what you could do, the basics of it are that, I do one episode a week. I record them, 2 at a time, basically. So I'm not recording every week. This may be weeks ahead of time before we actually get it out there, But now that I know that you're in the middle of your launch, I'm see if we can get it out faster for you. It might help support your launch there. But the idea that all I do is I come on at the time and talk, and then everything else is logistically handled. I'm sure you've got that same sort of team in place where you don't have to, you're not worried about the logistics of a podcast or editing it or doing any of that stuff, that you're, all I do is talk, and everything else happens automatically. Now, what we also do is I transcribe these, right? So every episode gets transcribed, and then I have a writer who takes the transcripts and from those takes out nuggets that are little 300 to 500 word clips of things that I say. So it's my words. It's exactly what I've said. Like we may, we send out 3 emails a week on the backs of this. So every Sunday, the new episode goes out and we tell people about that. Then on Tuesday and Thursday, we send out a content piece, like a short, that 300 to 500 word email. And they're all derived from things that I've said on the podcast. I'm not creating anything. I'm just talking, and from that, these things are happening. So you've already got 30 episodes. You've got the asset there of there's lots of nuggets that you could draw from that to fuel going out every week to somebody. And then, of course, what drives it all is at the bottom of every email that I send, we have our super signature, which says, whenever you're ready, here are 4 ways I can help you. And we've got the offers for, be a guest on More Cheese, Less Whiskers, with a link to where people can fill out the form to be a guest. So it's self-perpetuating in that it's constantly replenishing the people who want to be part of it. Then I've got my Profit Activator scorecard and the email mastery case study program, or work with me one-on-one, whatever it is. We've got those offers, and every time we send out that email, people respond, for every one of the things. And then, you just constantly, that rhythm of it is consistently moving on,
And so you don't see any depressed response because something's always available?
No, I see that I see more response because it's constantly available. That they can, do you know what I'm saying? If you spread it out over the course of the year that they can buy whenever they're ready, kind of thing. They can get help whenever they're ready. So none of the things that I do, like some of the things have definite deadlines in that the Breakthrough Blueprint in Toronto is coming up, and the one in London is, there's only 12 spots for these events, right? So there's that level of them filling up. But coming into this year, normally I would only ever be promoting the next event that's coming up. So I send the short, and by the way, the same emails every time is, I send the short personal expecting reply emails. I'm sure you've seen those too, that it's always, Toronto Mastermind, Ham getting together with some people. And so whenever people are ready, that's the, they respond and that's how it all happens, but it's always there in the back of somebody's mind that, oh yeah, I'd like to come to one of those, and then it comes to a point where now is the right time versus just, hoping that that everything aligns when we reopen in December, right? They may not know that you're going to do that again in December, but if you sent, I think that the big thing, the potential there is in September to start a group just because you'll have 100,000 people by then, right? But because of the end of your launch here. So you'll have 100,000 people to draw from, and I think that's going to be a cool thing. The metric to also look at, is then to think about shifting that thinking from the expense model of I spent this much on ads and I made this much in this, this window, this 30-day window of while we were doing the launch, to thinking about what the asset yields, and the asset being your the 100,000 people, So right now you've spent probably, if we just take 100, if you take 100,000 of them, you invested probably $5 million in generating that list, right? If you take it that you spent, that you spent $1,000 times 5,000, right? As affiliate commission. So when you look at that asset, if we take that as your capital investment, is if you didn't add anybody into it, what would happen now to if you spent the next 12 months just doing that, doing it quarterly and staying in touch with people, your yield on that list, your yield on that is more like an asset. That's the way you kind of look at it. That your every year it comes out more. I talk about this a lot in the real estate world. I just posted up on my for our real estate agents. I had a guy who had been mailing. We have a program called Getting Listings, and we show people how to mail postcards to a specific area where they want to get listings. And then when people respond, they send them a monthly newsletter with updates of all the new properties that have come on the market. So this guy, Kenny, comes here in Florida right now. He lives on Cape Ann in north of Boston. And he played me an email or a voicemail of a guy who had been getting his newsletters for over 4 years and called Kenny and said, we've got this house on the beach, and we're my brother's finally ready to sell it. We want to get it on the market, and it's a $2.5 million house right on the ocean. But that asset that he generated was this lead of people, from 4 years ago. Then yesterday I was telling that story, and I posted it up on my blog for our realtor members, and had somebody tell me the story yesterday that she just got a call from somebody who responded the first time she mailed out the Getting Listings postcards in 2006. We've been doing this program. Like, we started that program in 2006. So 11 years later, she's got somebody who is going to be selling their house, buying another house. It'll be a total of around $2 million. Just that consistency, right, of staying in touch with people. That asset continues to grow. That's the thinking between this Profit Activator 3, and then thinking, of course, of other things. What other ways can you help people that way? What other avenues or programs do you have that you could help them with?
Well, and I mean, to your point about even just the emails that you sent out, I mean, I've gotten them for now, I don't even know how long it's been, but it creates an expectation that, even though it's not the right time for me right now because I've got a really busy travel schedule over the next few months, I actually don't even open the email. I just see it, and I know, and that's because I've seen the message so many times that I don't even need to open it. So if from your point of view, if you were like concerned about open rates, that would actually be the wrong metric, because really, to your point, it's about consistency. And so for me, I'm like, but hopefully he'll do one in September, because that's actually when my calendar opens up, and then I'll go to it. So, and that only just clued in with me just now. And so, you've basically really convinced me that the model that works well for me too is doing something basically the exact same as your more cheese, less whiskers. Plus, it just allows me, just like it allows you to do, is talk about the very thing that is your superpower.
Yes, exactly. And that's all you have to do, right? Like, literally, my involvement in those emails is I get to do the final polish on it, but 90% of it is as is. And it's not somebody writing in my voice. It is my voice, because it's directly from the transcript of what I said. So it's my words, and just packaged that way. And that's so much. There's so much that you can do with that type of situation, And I just think, man, your people. That's really you. The focus that you have on one thing is that's really, it fits, and to get that rhythm into your world there would make an amazing difference for you.
This is helpful, man.
Yeah, I think that those, and I think, of course, mixing in with those the short personal emails to have those have that engagement. The thing about, if you were to use the intelligent link, the link to the to find out about the October program, or if you did you wanted. Yeah, I think, because right now you're in the middle of your launch, feels like that would be the next logical thing, is that the only people then that get the next communication are the ones who've asked for it. So nobody else is even, it's not like, I know that people are concerned with like, because let's be honest, in the middle of a launch, it's a bombardment, right? That's really what it is. It's like just constantly bombarding people for that short, intense period of time. And that people are sensitive to, well, I don't want to do that every month, right? I don't want to bombard people like that every month. Let's give the list a rest. Let's give them a rest kind of thing, right? That's really the language that people have. And then we're going to come and pummel them for the next, for 2 weeks. But if you're doing that where it's just the short, personal, expecting a reply message and they are interested in that, now you're only ever communicating on that context to people who have said they'd like to know more about it. And I think when you do it quietly, and I say quietly, meaning it's more like an individual type of approach, right? Like you're going to one person and they've asked you for it and you send them the information and what it is. And then I just get people to say, I'm in. So, if you did this thing, if you just did a short message like that, where you said to people, hey, we're doing a fall program of the 90-day year, and would you like to join us? And click here and I'll send you the details. When they click here, you send them the email that says, hey, here's what we're doing. And, blah, 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 blah. And it'd be great if you could join us. It's $2,000 or $199 a month. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just reply and say, I'm in. And I'll get you, that way, that thing of using those words, I'm in, as a response mechanism have been, I use that as a way of almost like, I call it one-click ordering. It's like that level. What I'm doing is I want to separate the decision from the logistics. I know that somebody can decide that they're going to do it and want to do it. And if all they have to do right now is respond back and say, I'm in, they feel like they've checked that off their list and they've, made that commitment. Then, that they've made the decision. And now it's just following up to handle the logistics of it. Whereas if the thing is go here to register and you don't know whether they've decided that they're going to join, that you don't know what's going on, right? Because then if I get that email and I've decided that I want to do it, or I'm thinking that I do want to do it, but I'm in the middle of something right now, I can't go to the page and get out my credit card and fill in my registration form right now. And so I delay, and I may delay myself right out of it. But if I could if they could just say, if you could just say, just let me know you're in, that way now they've made the decision and you know it, and you just move forward like they're in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that. I think it's a good, elegant way of doing it on the back end. And it truly is. I mean, just the one big issue that I've always had with the launch. I mean, it is a really great way of grabbing a large new customer base, but the amount of marketing that it takes, and I've never had truly, like I said before at the beginning, never had truly a marketing driven business. It's always been a relationship driven business. And that's why I've always been so attracted to the way that you do things, because the way that you do things, you've actually managed to turn like real relationship based, business, but you've tacked on the leverage of direct marketing or automation or whatever the case is.
Relationship marketing. I think that's really the thing. Yeah, that's what you've got. It's the most natural thing for you. I think, this is your natural preference, is to be this way, So I think that it just, even in talking with you, it sounds like you would, you would never run out of ways to apply what you know to all kinds of different things. And people would never run out of their appetite for hearing about it. And they would also never, you're never going to get close enough to their situation that they're not going to think their situation is different and want to apply it to their situation. And there's an infinite number of ways. So you may feel like, well, if I just share everything, then they don't need to buy anything or whatever. But it's the absolute furthest from the truth, right? It's the thing that they now, it amplifies their desire to buy, because now they really understand it and they really see how this could work, and they want to get the next level of details, and they want your help, and they want to make that commitment and be in a community and a support environment that's moving in that direction. It's like the 8 Profit Activators in that you're basically talking about an operating system. That's what a 90-day year is, right? And so it's constantly evolving. It's constantly being innovated, and different people are having different results. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, it's so because you've got the 8 profit activators, and I have the 8 phases of the 90-day year too. So
there you go.
It ties.
Yeah,
and we
so
both
which
have.
phase
You,
are you
you
in?
have your.
And that's the same thing. You can imagine your podcast is, what phase are you in? Where and that's really, people are going to find themselves. It's like, any good context like that. Do you know who Dave Ramsey is? The financial peace guy. So, there's a guy that for almost 30 years now, 25, 26 years now, has been on the radio 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, talking about the same 7 baby steps to financial peace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he's built an empire on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. That's what I appreciate about people like, you, or even, I get people asking me like, hey, are you going to come up with something new? And I'm like, why? Why would I don't need to come up with something new. And if you take a look at anyone who's got sustainability in like a thought leadership model, because I'm a thought leader, I'm not a publisher, right? Like I think people need to make sure that they have a distinguishing, idea between the business model that they're truly in. Some people are publishers, like they're not leading a thought forward. Like you're leading a thought forward. I mean, I actually, just so you know too, I got a huge consulting contract here in New York City, all on the back of me having my wife go into a meeting. She used to be a CFO at Experian, the big marketing services company. And she went in, and because I explained to her about more cheese, less whiskers, she went into a meeting, explained it to people, and they absolutely fell in love with the concept and brought me in to do some work with them. And I said, just so you all know, like, this isn't my thing. And they didn't care. They were just like, well, your wife was the one who delivered it. But the point is like, you're leading a thought forward. Like that one beautiful little contextual metaphor is so powerful. And so I don't want to go and publish a bunch of new programs, because now I have to be on a hamster wheel of marketing all the time. Whereas like this conversation has been just so valuable, because even in my head, I can see how all of the different puzzle pieces now finally fall into place. And it's a way more elegant business that I like running, in that it's so relationship based. It'll work. So
that's awesome. Cool.
Thanks, man.
Well, I've enjoyed it. It's great to finally get to spend some time.
I know. It's been too long. It's been long overdue. But again, this was so valuable. I can't express how much this has helped.
Well, good luck with your launch, and I'm going to see. When are you? Yesterday was the first day.
Yeah, so the first content piece went live yesterday, and then the second one goes live on June 6th, and which is the Tuesday, and then Friday, and then the enrollment opens on Monday the 12th.
Okay, cool. So I'll see if we can get the move up in the lineup here help support that for you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. So,
all right. Thanks
again. Thanks again. You bet.
Bye.
And there we have it. Another great episode. That was a really great conversation. I think Todd has an incredible asset there. He's got an incredible group of people who are already there in his Profit Activator 3. And the strategy that we laid out of frequently and regularly communicating with those people on a weekly basis at least is going to be an incredible asset for him. Todd's been part of our email mastery program, and I think that would be a great thing for you and I to work on for your business. If you'd like to be part of the email mastery program, just send me an email to dean@deanjackson.com and put email mastery in the subject line. And right now we're doing, over this whole year, we're doing and documenting case studies where I get to work with you one-on-one to wordsmith and to, decide what the best strategy to capitalize on the email opportunities that you have. We document everything and share what happens so that by the end of the year, we'll have an incredible catalog of all kinds of different case studies from all kinds of different businesses. And I'm really enjoying it. We're getting a lot of success over the course of how long we've been doing it here. So send me an email, dean@deanjackson.com, and put email mastery in the subject line. And let's see if we can work on some email for you.